in the Blue Ridge Mountains, a small trickle of water spills over the rocks. As it winds its way past the Laurels, the Chattahoochee River joins with many other small tributary streams that also begin in the North Georgia mountains. As these waterways come together, the river grows until the Chattahoochee looks like the river that we all know. The Chattahoochee headwaters are part of the larger Apalachicola-Chattahoochee-Flint River Basin, a massive watershed which drains 20,000 square miles in Georgia, Alabama, and Florida.
A watershed is all the land area which drains into a certain water body. Now, every piece of land on Earth is located within a watershed. And wherever water falls onto this watershed, it then drains downhill into a receiving river, lake, or ocean.
Over half of Georgia's drinking water comes from the Chattahoochee River system. The Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper, a nonprofit environmental advocacy organization, has been protecting the river, its tributaries, and its watershed since 1994. In 1996, Riverkeeper began the Headwaters program to reduce non-point source pollution in the Chattahoochee Headwaters region, a 1,000 square mile area that drains into Lake Lanier.
Recent studies show that the quality of Lake Lanier is declining. The lake is suffering from high levels of non-point source pollution, including nutrients, fecal coliform bacteria, and sediment entering the lake from its many tributaries.
The majority of our water quality problems in the Chattahoochee headwaters are caused by non-point source pollution. In Georgia, this is primarily dirt or sediment and the pollutants attached to that sediment, which are carried into our local waterways by storm runoff. Sediment comes from cattle trampling stream banks, from road building, from construction, logging, and farming. Sediment raises water treatment costs and silts in boat docks. It degrades fish habitat and reduces a stream's ability to store water, which intensifies downstream flooding. The power of water to carry sediment increases when vegetation is cleared from the watershed and replaced with hardened surfaces like rooftops, commercial areas, roads, and parking lots.
If we have a massive rainfall or something, it just comes down and just sweeps away the topsoil and everything, and the red clay and all, into the streams and eventually into the river.
One of the best ways to keep non-point source pollution out of our streams is to keep the vegetated riparian zones on their banks alive and flourishing. These vegetated areas may look like other land, but they're not. They filter and absorb surface runoff like a sponge, preventing floods and erosion, and keeping sediment and contaminants like pesticides, fertilizers, metals, and petroleum products from reaching waterways.
They also offer shade, particularly in the hot, drier months of the year. It keeps the water temperature down, and also it offers food for the fish, because trees attract bugs and bugs are attracted to trees and water, and that's what the trout live on.
Because of increasing problems associated with sediment and other pollutants in the Chattahoochee headwaters, Riverkeeper joined with scientists from the US Environmental Protection Agency. Together, they focused the Headwaters program on protecting and restoring riparian zones, using the Soque River Restoration Project as an educational demonstration site. The project focused on a severely damaged stretch of the Soque in the headwaters of the Chattahoochee Basin and transformed it into a dynamic but stable waterway with a healthy vegetated buffer zone. Like all of the Chattahoochee's tributaries, the Soque is a crucial part of the local landscape. It provides drinking water, recreation, waste assimilation, and educational opportunities.
It's very important that the students here in Habersham County understand that the Soque River is the headwaters of the Chattahoochee, and it's also important for them because they'll be future consumers that will be building houses and working in the community. So it's important that they understand the things that they do around the river are going to actually have an effect on the river.
The Soque is also a state-designated trout stream and an important tourist attraction for Habersham County. But a recent EPA study showed that the Soque River carries a large amount of sediment.
Our findings indicated that the Soque River was one of the major contributors of sediment to the Upper Chattahoochee River watershed.
Local citizens have become concerned about the water quality of the Soque.
a group of us who do live on the Soque and are concerned about it and want to save it, we got together and formed the Soque River Watershed Association. And it really is going very, very well. We have over 100 members now. People are just sort of piling in, and everyone is concerned, everyone wants to help. And so we're trying to detect what are the problems affecting the Soque and possible solutions.
Riverkeeper and the EPA decided to target the Soque River.
After talking to many landowners and searching the watershed, we found an excellent site. It was accessible, it had major erosion problems, and most of all, it was owned by an interested and cooperative landowner.
The result has just been absolutely phenomenal. We were losing soil off these riverbanks that would calculate up to equal tractor-trailer loads of soil erosion going down the river.
Letting cattle walk directly into the streams, dredging and straightening the river, clearing vegetation from the banks to get more pasture land.
All these land practices cause the river to change its shape, such as its width and its depth, and they then cause the channel to become unstable. None of this makes for good fish habitat or downstream water quality.
Riverkeeper agreed to restore a 1,300-foot stretch of the Soque using a method new to Georgia that addressed the instability of the banks in the channel. As a first step in the restoration process, the team had to look at a healthy stream in a similar geologic setting, a stream within a wide valley. The field team returned to the Soque to analyze the restoration site and determine their new design.
Typically when we mess streams up, we cause them to lose use of their floodplains. The floods have all this pent-up energy confined in this channel right here, and with all that energy, that water rushing down through there, it starts eroding its banks like you saw downstream.
At the site, the field team also measured channel slope, sinuosity or curvature, width, depth, and other factors, so a new channel with a healthy profile could be designed. They inserted bank pins to determine exactly how much land Justin was losing. Measurements showed that more than 60 tons of sediment eroded into the water in just 2 months.
We're learning more and more about the complexities of trying to restore rivers and streams, and we're learning the consequences of when changes have been made, such as the removal of trees from the streamside zone, and in the case of this stream, when riprap has been applied to the stream bank. It may stabilize it in a very local area, but it causes tremendous destabilization downstream and upstream from where the riprap has been put into place.
Basing the restoration design on the information we gathered, we did several things. We took the old farm pond and made it part of the new channel, making the river more sinuous and curvy, allowing the river to dissipate some of its energy. On the section of river where Justin was losing most of his property, we knew that the bend was too tight and the banks unstable, so we restored it to a gentler curve and sloped the banks back.
Principal restoration work occurred during the dry season. Restoration experts redirected the actual course of the water by narrowing the stream and adding curves back to the river. Rock veins and root wads were strategically placed in stream to protect vulnerable banks while also creating habitat.
It's wonderful habitat for trout. The structure was installed 5 days ago. We've already had several trout move into and upstream of the structure.
Now the river has a pattern and profile that make it both stable and dynamic, allowing both water and sediment to flow through without causing excess erosion.
Volunteers from Southeast Waters AmeriCorps then stabilized the new banks with black willow bundles, biodegradable mats, and grass seed. Next, community volunteers planted native shrubs and trees to reestablish a vegetated riparian buffer zone.
Even if a landowner doesn't want to restore an entire stream channel, replanting the riparian buffer zone is definitely valuable.
And while the costs of restoration are high, the costs of not doing anything are even higher. Increased water treatment expenses, decreased property values, loss of aquatic habitat.
If anything that we've learned from all this is the importance of preventative medicine. It's a very complex process to properly design a restoration project. It's very expensive and involves a lot of people's time.
It takes so little to upset the balance of the Chattahoochee River or any of our river systems. Both present and past land use practices can upset the balance of any healthy river system.
Don't make the mistake of grazing cattle too close to a river. Plant trees, plant grass. Don't cultivate too close to the riverbank. Protect the banks at all costs. Because once the erosion starts, it's like dominoes.
The Soque is one of the many tributaries to the Chattahoochee River, part of a larger system from which half of all Georgians get their drinking water.
At Riverkeeper, we've learned that restoration is both possible and necessary, but that protecting streams and rivers in the first place is extremely valuable.
Each of us can and must have a role in making that protection happen in our own local watershed.